So, congratulations on The Voice.
Thank you.
Can we talk about what made you decide to audition for The Voice?
Yeah, it was kind of a combination of elements, but mostly, I was always describing it as like, imagine you had like a really great laugh. You just had this really good belly laugh, and people would, always try to get you to laugh and to tell you all the time, man, I love your laugh. You have the greatest laugh. And then next thing you know, people are paying good money and they're driving from out of state to hear you laugh. And before you know it, there's a TV show that comes out and it's called The Laugh. Wait a minute. I've got to laugh. It's kind of a weird, thing to see the show come along and like, wait a minute, what? Hang on a second. Because, of course, it just seemed like another vocal contest reality show thing. And fortunately, I when I saw that they weren't just, not shying away from people with past or having been sort of semi-professional or established, but they were actually celebrating that. That's when I was like, okay, I think I've got a pretty good voice. I've got a pretty interesting story. This could be right. This could be all right. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Did you go in hoping to get a specific person, or you guys pick your team because everybody chose you? So.
Yeah, honestly, I was hoping either Adam or Blake would turn around. And then, when all four of them did, I was like, holy moly, this is a whole other story. But in truth, they all said wonderful things and made me feel very validated and justified in being there. But Adam was really the only one who said, please pick me. I hope you pick me. But as well, he said, you're going to have an amazing career. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, yes, that's what I wanted to hear. So, because it's not about winning contest, and all the coaches realize that. They understand that this is way more than just winning a contest. This is artist development. Even the ones that don't get someone to turn around, they do what they can in those last few moments to impart as much, encouragement and positive feedback or constructive criticism. But it's definitely not about pointing fingers, laughing people off the stage, and I love that. I think it's great.
Right. So what's the next step now? You're on Adam's team. What happens now?
Well, having gotten past the blind auditions,
right.
that puts me in the bracket for the battle rounds. And so I get paired up with someone from the team, and we go toe-to-toe. So I think those start airing on March 5th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so that's a month since the first show aired, right? It was after the Super Bowl. When did you actually do the audition? How long did it take for that to come out for people to see?
Yeah, we shot the blind auditions back in October, right before Halloween.
So you've been sitting on this for months.
I've been sitting for a while,
yeah. That's really cool, though. Exciting to see what's going to happen. Can we talk about what happened with Christina? Because there's articles written about how she didn't recognize you or whatever. How'd that go?
Yeah, it's always interesting how they cut things together and try to tell a story that's being told already, and reality TV is interesting. Yeah, she did not realize during the blind auditions. There was, for a brief moment, at least I can't find it, maybe because it's come up and maybe I cited it a couple times and they didn't want what they aired to conflict with what um, what they were willing to reveal. I don't know. But there was a clip on NBC.com titled Outtakes. And in that outtakes is they show the moment where the person came up to her and said that was Tony from Mouse Club. And she lets out a huge holy shit. And it was as legitimate as, you would imagine. And to my understanding, that's how it went down. That I left the stage, someone came up to her, told her that, she realized, and then came backstage and had a legitimate, honest, genuine, trip down memory lane.
Right.
It certainly would have helped my cause had they shown her saying "holy sh," but
yeah.
I think they were able to tell the same story by showing her kind of realizing it as I walked past her.
Right.
So, a little awkward, but, again, when she came into that back room, she was great. She definitely, of course, that was a much longer conversation than what actually aired.
Right.
It was funny. She said, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you were the one that turned everyone on to Brian McKnight." And Matt Morris tried to take credit for it, but I remember it was you, and I was like, awesome. Like, okay, I thought that would have helped my case as far as knowing a thing or two about good singers, and but instead, of course, she coupled that with the comment about Britney,
right.
And that was all the producers needed to hear, so they ran.
Well, that's
that.
Good TV.
That's good TV. So
Britney Spears having a crush on you probably helps you too, Tony. You gotta.
No, I'm hoping that's the case. We'll see. But now I'm just gonna start saying, you might want to ask Britney.
There you go. Do you keep in touch with any of the guys from Mickey Mouse Club?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I talked to quite a few of them actually. Of course, more of them that have yet to really come to prominence, but there were so many of us. But a lot of really great, talented, wonderful brothers and sisters of mine from that experience. I heard from quite a few of them via text after the Super Bowl episode. I heard from Lindsay Alley, Kerry Russell, Jen McGill, JC, Matt Morris, Dale Gaboldo, Mark Warden, Josh Ackerman. Quite a list of them reached out, and it was really wonderful. And even more of them via Facebook, and really an unimaginable group of friends to have.
It's really cool. I remember, I watched it when I was really little. I was really little. It was a long time ago. No, I loved the Mickey Mouse Club, though. And then, when everybody, the late 90s, early 2000s, when everybody was starting to, resurface, I was like, oh, wow! I have the album.
Yeah.
The CD that you
right?
I have that somewhere.
I spent $20 on eBay trying to track it down. No joke.
Nice.
Yes, that's in my possession. I saw you with NSYNC, their last show ever.
Orlando.
You were playing with them. The celebrity tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. I met you for 2 seconds when I was talking to Mr. Fatone. His dad, not him. I was talking to his father, because they opened too. They were Not So Boy Band.
Yeah.
So.
See his face.
I'm legit, man. I remember this.
Yeah.
Not So Boy Band was a good time. Do you have any awesome, memory stories from that time? Do you have any, cool things that you remember from touring with NSYNC?
Yeah. There was a night on the tour when it was me, Smash Mouth, and NSYNC. And one night the stars kind of aligned in my favor. But the Not So Boy Band was not so present. And Smash Mouth was, they had to cancel because the lead singer, I think, had some throat things happening. And so I went from being, one of four to the first of three, and then when Smash Mouth canceled, I became direct support for NSYNC for one night on the tour. And I think I got an extra couple of songs out of the whole thing, which was pretty cool. That was great. I think it was in Philadelphia. But no, man, it was really cool hanging out with those guys, and they would play Halo on the bus, and apparently they had this sort of tradition where this one leg of the tour every time they going through the plains. I guess it's just a really long, boring drive at night, and they would pull over once we kind of got out of town, and Joey and Steve, his brother, and Lance, they left their bus and came onto our bus, and they played like 8-man Halo.
Wow.
So 4 dudes in the back lounge playing 4 dudes in the front lounge via, modem. And I'm sitting there with my Etch-a-Sketch just like old school, And I think I had like a travel kit of Battleship and an Etch-a-Sketch, and I think Steve Tone called me Analog. that was my nickname for the night. But yeah, man, there was some really great times on that tour, and I think they were all flying single on that tour. So there was a lot of camaraderie and hanging out, and I remember Justin telling me that. I said, "So how does this tour compare to the other tours?" And he said the vibe is really great. The friendship, the camaraderie is like it was when we started. It's been really a lot of fun, but so it was cool to be a part of that as that was going on.
Good times. They're not tour anymore, so I'm still bitter. They're not together. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
No, Joey actually was just tweeting about, like, oh, would anybody be interested in a reunion if Justin wasn't there? And I'm like, yes. But I don't see that happening, so. Enough about them. So, what song off of any of your albums, what is one of your most meaningful songs that you've written? Because you have a few albums out now, so. What stands out? What are some of your favorites that you've written?
I think when I realized I might actually have a shot at, really becoming a craftsman songwriter, I guess, like, be it for me or other artists or what, but just really when I felt like I had a strong grasp of songwriting was when I wrote Death of Me. That one just kind of fell into place. It was one of the first songs I had ever written that was under 4 minutes, which is sort of a benchmark for at least popular songwriting. But it was concise to the point, very old school, but fresh and a pretty clever turn of phrase. So I was really happy with that one. And to this day, I think that kind of sums up where I'm coming from. But I had a couple songs on the Rendezvous with the Angels record that I was pretty proud of. There's nothing like having a child, and while I was working on that album, of course, my wife gave birth to our baby girl, and so that inspired a few more songs that wound up on that record. And, Always is the one specifically to my daughter, and Love Light is the one about going to the hospital to have her, so or going to the hospital with my wife to have her.
I knew what you meant. Yeah. So, where does most of your inspiration come from? Just things, events in your life and everything, or do you have you hear something or get an idea to write? What's your writing process like?
There's actually a hotline that I call.
Yeah. They give you some like words.
Yeah, like I want to talk about this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. No. I move around a lot. Change the scenery. I think if I stay in one place too long, it sort of narrows my perspective, and moving around a lot lets me see life, through as many different sets of eyes and as possible, so that I don't ever misrepresent myself or anyone else in my lyrics. That they're all honest and would hold up to someone in New York City as well as they would hold up with someone in Los Angeles or Canada or Guatemala or wherever else I might go. As I've grown as a songwriter, I learned that you want to speak universally, but oddly enough, the best way to do that is with the most detail. You use stronger details, and you're going to relate to more people everywhere, and that's a weird irony, but it's true. And so, moving around and observing other people and other environments has always been really inspiring.
You mentioned Brian McKnight before. Who are some of your other musical influences? Who do you listen to?
Growing up, it was pretty much a grab bag of commercial and not so commercial radio. And these days, oddly enough, I don't listen to much music, unless I'm listening back to something that I listened to as a kid or, in my formative years, which is sad. I really, when I'm getting in to make a record, I usually immerse myself in other artists' stuff just to kind of see, where they're coming from and maybe where the bar sits as far as caliber of writing. I've been enjoying the last few Wilco records. I love I love hearing Ryan Tedder's songs come out. He's got a pretty great grasp of things. It's been weird. I just recently got onto Spotify and I've been digging in there, and I think now that I'm all about it, that I'll be really immersing myself in more great stuff.
Yeah,
There's a couple records I keep meaning to buy on iTunes, but I just every time I get on iTunes, I forget what I want to buy.
But you can listen to it on Spotify, so.
Exactly.
You can also share what you're listening to, which is amazing.
I love Spotify. It's like the greatest thing ever. I had you up on my Facebook was popping. I was listening to you today.
Nice.
On Spotify. So my Facebook feed will say, Stephanie listened to Tony Lucca. Joyce, my manager,
hi.
She wanted to ask
Hey, Joyce.
a question.
So I've actually had the privilege of seeing you in concert, like 4 or 5 times. I'm a huge fan, so. My question for you is, because I'm kind of obsessed with this question, but as a songwriter, what comes first musicality? Like, do you hear, like, a great progression, or you're like, all right, I'm going to write this melody, and then you let it kind of write the rest of the song write itself? Like, where do you have to be in order to write, like, a hit song? And Death of Me is my favorite one of your songs, so I kind of just wanted to put that out there, too.
It used to be mostly music. I would start with music that would inspire a train of thought, and then I would write the words down to fit the music. As I've developed, I've found that sometimes, and now more likely, it's that I'll write lyrics that will, that are strong on their own as like a poem or just prose, and it's much easier to find music to fit lyrics than it is generating a very specific mood with music and be like, oh, this one needs to be about this, and having to drum up a sentiment. That took me a long time to realize. Sometimes they come all at once, and that's when you're just stoked to be alive and at the right place at the right time. And that was the case for Death of Me. I think I wrote that song in about 15 minutes, which is cool. You know, that those are the gems. That's when you actually shed a tear and you're like, wow, you know, heck yeah, this is awesome.
Those are the songs that you can literally listen to for hours and not get sick of.
Thank you.
If all goes well with The Voice, where do you see yourself in the next year or 2 years? What are you hoping to happen?
I'm really just hoping to build on what I have created thus far. You know, I don't, you know, I can't say, oh, I'm looking forward to getting on the road and touring because I never have before. That'd be so cool. I'm looking forward to getting in the studio and making a record because I never have. You know, not to suck the innocence out of winning a contest like this, but basically, yeah. I mean, I don't ever want this to be easy. You know, like what I do is a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. It's a labor of love, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it's a lot of work. I'm just ready for a new workload. You know, I want a new assignment. I'm ready to trade in sort of the DIY indie thing for the VIP major label priority thing. But I'm as ready to work as hard as I have ever been. I know that's what it takes. It's not it's not like a record magic carpet. It's a record deal. They're going to hook you up with X, Y, and Z, but you have to do this in return, and I'm really ready to do that. That being making a great record, getting out and building upon the fan base that I've already spent so many years developing, and just throwing gasoline on the fire. Really, that's what I'm hoping this turns into.
I hope it does too. I'm a fan. A room full of 21 and older at Rockwood on Tuesday. There was a woman from England. Did you meet her? On Tuesday night, there was a woman from England who saw you on The Voice, and she flew over because she heard you were performing in New York City.
What?
And she was freaking out. And, she was hoping to meet you. You remember her?
She was the funniest woman. And she's like, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I love his voice and all this stuff. And I'm, giving her entire lowdown. I'm like, please go download his music on iTunes. And
yeah, she came from England to see you perform.
Crazy. And I was just like, wow. And she was like, is he going to come out? She's like, is he going to come out? I want to meet him. Is he going to come out? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you did.
Did she get into the show?
She was in the show. She had gone outside to smoke a cigarette, and we were talking to her because she was with a friend of mine who was there. He was inside watching, and then.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of intense when they travel. I don't know that I like anyone enough to travel around the world for them. I go to other states, but I don't know about other countries.
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that? Do you have any weird fan stories for yourself? Have you ever been a huge fanatic of somebody?
No, not really.
No, I don't like other people.
I was for a while. I used to be a big Bryan Adams fan, and I put that in an early bio on Mouse Club. And one time, a girl, I think I was 16. And this girl from New York sent me a ticket to go see Bryan Adams at Madison Square Garden. Of course, it was one of a pair, and she had the other
right.
one. It was the greatest bait I'd ever seen. It was, wow, and I was really on the fence for a while about it. I'm like, that would be awesome. And I guess I just didn't have the courage or the...
It could have been one of two ways, That could have been awesome. That could have been quite terrifying. So
yeah, it was wow, okay.
You'll never know.
But she showed up at the show Tuesday night, and she was like, "You remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Wow.
I said, "I talk about you a lot." Because it was worth a shot.
As long as
your
your
fans are kind of intense. I remember, I went a few cities to see you because, yeah, I'm that person. And, there were girls that were like, yeah, well, this is our, we just follow the tour. And I'm like, oh, okay. do you have like crazy fan stories from your fans that are like a little too intense for you, or just like a little too, all right, thanks for appreciating me, but please appreciate me from afar?
I've got some, but nothing too crazy, you know. There was a girl during Mouse Club actually who, she was all about it and would come to every show and tried to get in every shot, and eventually found out where we lived and came over like
Okay.
we were running some Babe Lair, and she was gonna come over and seamstress for the band kind of thing. I was like, whoa, you get the wrong idea there, Penny Lane. This is not happening. You need to go.
And you guys were teenagers. Like, you were on that show when you were, like, 14.
Yeah, this was on the last season of it, and I was 18 at the time, and me and JC and Dale lived in our own apartment, and it was quite a bachelor pad, But, if you aren't invited, you're not invited. I don't care where it is or who it is, So.
Yeah, fans, I mean, I'm a fangirl, born and raised, pretty much, but there is such a boundary, and, like, I'm so, like, I know where that boundary is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't get how people don't know where the boundary is.
It's cool, like, being at a concert and being all, like, super fan, but, like, the minute you leave the concert, within, like, a certain distance, because, like, I'll go up to someone if they're, like, outside a venue, because you're just kind of there. So, okay, I'll go up to you, but, like, I've watched people follow people down the street.
Oh, yeah, they follow the buses.
I would never. Like, that's just so invasion of privacy. Like, you're a fan of my music, be a fan of that. Don't be a fan of my personal life, and don't stalk me.
Yeah, I remember on the NSYNC tour when we got to Buffalo, the guys had told me about Buffalo before we got there. They're like, where do you see Buffalo? I'm like, all right. We showed up at the hotel, I think at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and Beatlemania.
Wow.
It was nuts. It's cold, it was winter in Buffalo, so there's a bunch of people outside, but then inside, through the sliders they had, it looked like when you're watching, I don't know if you ever watch PGA golf, but where they've got like them roped off and the golfers have to sort of through walls of people. It was like that. They were all roped off in the corridor of the hotel. Like the hotel just accommodated them. They weren't going to fight them off or nothing. So we walked in, but by that point in the tour, so many people knew who I was or that I was on tour with them, and so many Mouse Club fans, of course, that were just the diehards. And I honestly could say I felt like the 5th member or the 6th member of NSYNC. It was, I was going to say the 5th Beatle.
There you go.
But totally crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a lot. I mean, I was living in Florida when they were big, so I went to a lot of things because they had a lot more things, in Orlando and like Miami and stuff. It was always nuts, and I wonder, like, because it's been 10 years, I'm older, wiser. I wonder how I would feel like thrown back into that element. Like, it's probably way worse looking back than it actually. I don't know.
I think it's like a through looking lesson because, like,
yeah.
you see like younger Hollywood now that's going through, I guess, what you guys went through, before, and it's like, wow, I was definitely that person. And you like, a part of you is like, I understand where you're coming from, and part of you is like, oh, I feel
you
so
guys
bad.
did not have the benefit of Twitter and the interactions that are available now. How do you think things would be different if that had been available to you?
Man, I don't know.
Or if you would have been cursed with that, maybe.
I think about that a lot, yeah. I mean, how many things would have been more successful? How many things would have totally imploded? How many bands that were successful back in the day were better off because they didn't have the likes of Twitter, or TMZ, or,
right.
Now it's just like, you can't just go be a rock star. You've got, now you are a celebrity, whether you want to be or not. And, because you are a name. Once you are a rock star, you are a name, and then, you know, you're just like a ball of yarn for them to just bat around, and it sucks. But you know, yeah, I think about, you know, in a lot of regards though, how the hell did we ever succeed in anything with, you know, before GPSs and Twitter and Facebook? It's crazy.
I think that for like the whole pop craze, it's probably better that there was more anonymity at the time, because like once, like for NSYNC for example, once they reached a certain level, they were untouchable to the fans, and they could say, oh yeah, we tried to meet people backstage and stuff, but no, that's, you know, 50 out of thousands that would meet them. But I think that's probably better, because I think that if all the dirty laundry was aired, they might not have been as successful as they are.
I think also for, you were mentioning like that you, once you like sign up for this, like you kind of now it's become more like, it is like once you're famous, everything around you kind of gets like a light shine on them. You now being like, you have like a family, you have a wife and kids, like how does that, I guess in the back of your mind, where do you like, I guess where do you want a line to be drawn? Like, is there like the nerves that you don't want your family to be so in the spotlight too? Now that you're on this, like, everyone's now like, oh, Tony Lucca, he's on The Voice, and I want to know everything about him now. You're going to have those crazies. Like, where do you need to?
Fans, Joyce. They're called fans.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a... I think one of the benefits of being a bit older now, you know, I'm not a young, single, hot commodity kind of artist on the brink here. It's especially if you've come to know me through The Voice, you know that I'm a family man. You can see that that's part of the story. It's my wife and my son, and then, you know, eventually my baby girl, and so I don't know. I don't anticipate too much craziness. At the same time, I'm not naive, and I know exactly how this whole thing goes. And so, yeah, it's, you know, the good, one of the good things about being right on the cusp all these years and getting to run around with some of the most celebrated people in history, is that I was in a position to take a lot of notes and make myself available for a lot of insight and ask great questions along the way. And, you know, whether it was watching Carrie Russell become the it girl, you know, watching NSYNC explode, watching you know, Justin break out on his own, and then you know, touring with Mark Anthony and getting close to him in his camp, or, you know, getting to know people like Kevin Costner and all these other random Hollywood people. I mean, I'm not name dropping just because it sounds good, but I mean, like, just to set this sort of random spectrum of people where you know, you make notes. You're like, now that's how I will do it. That is awesome. Or just the opposite. You're like, note to self.
Yeah. Let's not do that one.
Maybe we won't go that route when it's our turn. So it's been really educational and awesome. So yeah, I think I know how to handle the craziness should it come about.
All right. Well, I will link your music and all your information on the channel when we upload this. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
You got it. Thank you. This has been, I think, one of my first actual Skype interviews set up through a publicist. This is really cool.
It's awesome that we can do this kind of thing now. Like,
I know, you guys are so far ahead of the curve.